Welcome back, everyone, to the place where veils fall and stories breathe. You're tuned into Turkish series stars, the corner of the internet that refuses to settle for the surface. Tonight isn't just coverage, it's an autopsy of a moment that reshaped the conversation around two of the most watched names in Turkish entertainment. We're stepping into a space where affection and accusation collide, and where silence stops being noble and becomes a burden. If you're ready to be immersed in a tale so charged with emotion it could be mistaken for a scene from the very series that glued us to our screens, you've arrived at the right address. Before we dive in, secure your place among us. Subscribe like you're shutting a rumor down for good. Hit join if you want to stand with this kind of deep dive storytelling. Drop a like, it helps us fight the algorithm's indifference, and warm up those fingers, because this one begs for your voice in the comments. The backdrop was a glittering gala celebrating the year's standouts in film and television, yet beneath the fragrance and flashbulbs was a current primed to snap. For months, the names Gawkberg, Yıldırım and Seamra Arda have been whispered in hallways, typed across timelines, and printed between the lines of every speculative column. Their romance hovered like a ghost, felt by many, acknowledged by few, confirmed by neither. They chose quiet as their armor, a dignified silence that protected what mattered. But quiet leaves a space, and in that space, others started drafting their story for them. Last night, that borrowed script was set on fire. They didn't arrive as two stars dodging the same cameras. They appeared as one, fingers interlaced, a step perfectly matched, walking straight through the strobe-lit chaos without flinching. But the evening wasn't just about appearing together. It was about defending what that togetherness means. Hovering over the night were words from Semra's past, claims hurled by her ex-boyfriend, Gökberk. His assertion was ruthless in its simplicity, that this romance was theater, a calculation, a PR move dressed up as love. It's hard to overstate the insult. In this industry, the PR couple label is the coldest cut. It strips people of their humanity, turning feelings into fabrication and intimacy into marketing copy. It suggests every smile is something negotiated, every touch a plot point, every shared glance a directive rather than a heartbeat. That narrative, launched by Gökberk, was meant to infect how people looked at Gawkberg and Seamra. As they moved down the carpet, the press closed in, drawn like moths to the possibility of a combustive quote. The question waited in every lens. When the mic reached Seamra, the pleasantries evaporated. The practiced red carpet smile didn't just recede. It transformed into resolve. In a moment, we watched the shift from actress posing for photos to a woman refusing to let someone else define her reality. The room's air changed, celebration sharpened into contest. Asked if the relationship was engineered for fame, Seamra didn't hesitate. She inhaled once, steadily, almost as if anchoring herself to the floor beneath her heels, then she met the camera as though she were looking through it. "No one gets to minimize what we live," she said, her voice calm but edged in tempered steel. She dismantled the worldview behind the accusation with clarity, the notion that a woman's happiness has to be stamped by strategy, not feeling. "I choose the people in my life with my own heart," she added, not raising her tone, yet somehow silencing the murmurs. It wasn't just a statement, it was a reclamation. She asserted that she stands unassisted, that her career, her choices, her love, are not propped up by a counterfeit facade. "This is our reality," she finished. "No one gets to shrink it to suit their headlines." The message couldn't have been clearer. Using her name and her relationship as leverage for attention was a line she would not let anyone cross again. I want to pause and look to you, the Turkish series stars community. This isn't just celebrity spectacle, it's a universal bruise. How many of you have stepped into a brighter chapter only to be tugged backward by someone who used to know you? Is it envy? Is it a need for control? Why do old relationships sometimes seek to scorch what's new? Tell me below, was Gökberk speaking from hurt, or was it strategy? Let's unpack what it means when the past tries to edit the present. If Seamra's words were the shield, then what followed from Gawkberg was the blade. He'd been there all night like a calm perimeter around her. A presence, protective and deliberate. But watching the pressure fix its gaze on the woman he loves, watching her defend the legitimacy of her feelings to a crowd, shattered the pact he had made with silence. He stepped forward, not loud, never aggressive, but sure-footed in a way that quieted the room all at once. He took the mic, and the hush was so complete you could hear the cameras work. "We've held our tongues for a long time," he began, the weight of restraint audible in each word. He did not just refute the rumor, he reframed their origin story. "We found each other in our most fragile days," he said. "Read that carefully. Not on a set, not at a launch party, not as a convenient pairing under lights. Fragility. That means exhaustion, grief, the heavy fog that comes with schedules so demanding they swallow you whole." He painted a union forged not by managers, but by two people recognizing shelter when they needed it most. That image alone pulls the plug on the PR narrative. Contrived romances are built on convenience, not confession. "I won't respect anyone who reduces what we share," he added, planting a stake in the ground. When pressed about whether Barack's commentary rattled him, he refused the diplomatic dodge. "No one's former chapter should be weaponized against the happiness they have now," he said plainly. He did not erase history, he simply insisted it stay where it belongs. And then came the blow that ended any thought of continued silence. "If turning our now into a talking point, calling it fake, is considered normal, then don't expect us to stay quiet." A line drawn. A promise that untruths would not be met with polite nods. Social media erupted in minutes, anointing Gawkberg as the partner who doesn't hesitate to stand shoulder to shoulder when the heat rises. Behind the curtain, there's more. What reached our desk at Turkish series stars suggests last night's eruption was inevitable. People close to the pair say the attempts to undercut their love weren't just public jabs, the whispers slid into their inner circles, too. Some of Gawkberg's most trusted friends reportedly told him, "Not responding to this makes you look weak." Imagine the tug-of-war inside him, the urge to guard privacy against the need to protect their truth. He's a man whose creed is "I don't owe explanations," and yet the moment the narrative swerved into belittling Seamra's feelings, something primal woke up. That, more than any hit aimed at him, was the trigger. There's a chivalry there, yes, but not the performative kind. It's the quiet sort, the kind that steps up when dignity is on the line. And beyond the words, there was a language you didn't need subtitles for. Touch. Angle. Space. Seamra's hand in his, squeezed, released, squeezed again. His body turned toward her, as if on instinct, forming a shield without ever blocking her light. There was one fleeting moment, captured only by the sharpest eyes, when he leaned in. "The rumor mill says," he whispered, "whatever comes, we face it together. Let them see it." It's the kind of sentence that can do more than any official statement, because it isn't meant for the crowd. It affirms that unity itself is their refuge. Every time their eyes met, a small smile appeared, the kind built on a private understanding, an us against the storm vow. Now, let's talk about the elephant that always sits in our industry's lounge. Manufactured romances exist. Sometimes publicists do pair people for ratings or buzz. That's the fuel that keeps 1,000 theories burning. So how do you tell when something's staged and when it's stitched from the heart? Is it in the gaze that doesn't wander when the cameras stop? The way hands find each other without looking? Or is it exactly this, two people willing to stand in a room full of microphones and fight for the truth of what they live? Tell me, do you believe Gawkberg and Seamra? Or is there still a shadow of doubt in the corner of your mind? Here at Turkish series stars, we believe the truth often wears complexity like a second skin, and your perspective adds to that picture. As the gala dimmed and the crowd thinned, there was one last question waiting at the exit. A reporter, hunting for the headline to end all headlines, asked whether they were finally acknowledging the relationship. Gawkberg didn't make a ceremony out of it. "We never hid," he said with a simplicity that reframed everything. "Now everyone understands what's real to us." It implies we were all looking at the wrong thing, or listening to the wrong noise. Seamra ended with a sentence that closed the door behind the night. We're good. Our happiness is the point. They didn't leave like defendants escaping a courtroom. They walked out like people who had finished what they came to do. The shockwaves were instant. Feeds lit up. The camp that clung to Barack's posture started thinning, while the crowd that rallied around what they called truth grew loud. The ball now sits in Barack Burke's court. Will he answer? Double down? Or will the force of what we witnessed convince him to let the echo die out? We're told the greatest measure of love is whether it can stand in weather like this. If that's the test, then last night wasn't just a pass, it was a benchmark. Brick by brick, with every word, they built a wall against the publicity stunt narrative. What we witnessed was rare, a rumor undone not by a press release, but by something that felt undeniably lived. Gawkberg, Yıldırım and Seamra Arda reminded us that silence can be grace, but sometimes speaking is a diamond, unyielding, precise, brilliant under pressure. We'll watch closely for any countermove, and you know Turkish series stars will be here to break it apart and make sense of it with you. If this deep dive into the beating heart behind the headlines resonated with you, honor the work with a like. It truly helps us bring you more of these long-form narratives. Subscribe if you haven't. Don't just drop by, be part of the family. And if you want to help keep independent, fearless entertainment storytelling alive, that join button is right there. Thank you for your time, your trust, and your curiosity. Until the next twist, the next kiss, or the next revelation, stay curious, stay bold, and remember, Turkish series stars tells the stories that others only skim.